Hey guys, welcome to BAAM Ranch. My name is Matt. Thanks guys for stopping by to watch. I wanted to discuss something today. We went to Sam's Club and they had some water collection barrels sitting out there. And it reminded me of a story that I want to tell you guys in regards to OPSEC, operational security, keeping your mouth shut about things that are important. But the story is my wife has a family member and she was collecting rainwater, which everybody ought to be doing that. You ought to be collecting rainwater. And if you are collecting rainwater, you need to be collecting more rainwater. And she had spent a good bit of money on it, had a pretty significant system going. And went through the whole thing of getting the pump put in and running it through all the filters and spent the right amount of money and wrote the check to make that water drinkable. The problem is the city that she lives in has an ordinance that says you can't do that here. Blows my mind. You're not allowed to use the rain. You're not allowed to drink the rain. Completely, totally different subject, worthy of its own video, but that blows my mind. So anyway, she spent all this money and then she got a letter from the city saying that you're going to have to stop. You're illegally using rain. You can collect it, you can't drink it. The absolute most basic life supporting function of this rainwater that you're allowed to collect, you can't drink. And if she doesn't, go ahead and discontinue and take all that infrastructure out that she had invested in, that she's going to face a fine. Well, there's only one reason why anybody would know that it was there. And that's because somebody told on her. Really? I mean, somebody told on her for drinking the rain. Let me repeat that. Somebody told on her for drinking the rainwater. Blows my mind. These little bitty things that you may be proud of and may seem so incredibly harmless, like setting up a rainwater collection system. All it takes is for somebody to be mad for whatever reason, or I hate to use the word Karen, but I can't think of a better word to come up with right now, but somebody to be Karen enough that they're going to take the time out of their day to be snooping around, looking in your backyard. Or it could just be somebody that you told and they told somebody else and somebody told another person. But take the time out of their day to call and report you to the city for illegal use of harvested rainwater. That's the world we live in. And it just drives home the point of you got to keep your mouth shut about things. And a lot of people think, well, I need to be keep this whole OPSEC thing going with my preps because I don't want anybody to come steal it. Once again, I think you're out of touch with the world we're living in. People nowadays, they are not going to come in and raid your home for your food because they don't have the balls to do that. What they will do is wait till you're asleep with your family and burn your house to the ground with the food in it just to spite you. I could see that happening. So you really need to keep a tight lip on what information you divulge to anybody. There's a small trusted group of people that they may need to know, but that's nobody else's business. And I understand, you may be proud of something, you may have worked real hard on something, but just don't go telling the world about that. Now, as far as the rainwater collection, you need to be doing it. We had a pond that we stocked with fish And it was about an acre and a half or so of surface water that we put in 1990 on the property. That entire time, that pond had held water. It had even overflowed the banks, a couple dozen times, and it had never once even come remotely close to us ever wondering if that pond's ever going to have water in it. In addition to, it for 2/3 of the life of the pond, as of today, 2/3 of the life of that pond, we put in a windmill, and that windmill fed a stock tank, and the stock tank overflowed into that stock tank overflowed down into the pond. A tornado came through, knocked the windmill down. We scrapped all that, pulled all that stuff, and just put an electric well pump in and hooked it up to some solar panels, and it's been running great ever since. And we didn't expect anything to happen to that pond, but we went ahead and thought we would do that. This has been 8-9 years ago, I guess. And that thing's been running pretty good ever since then. The problem is we had a drought. The closest we've ever come since, this is summer, late summer, early fall of 2021. The closest we have ever been to actually needing that pond for an emergency water source and an emergency food source with the fish and whatnot and wildlife that is attracted to it and all the things that go with having a pond was in 2020. 2020 was in the middle of a huge drought. And for the first time since 1990, that pond dried up bone dry. What happened to the stock tank that was overflowing to keep it maintained? Well, things dried up. The ground, after almost 10 years of that stock tank being there, it started to dry out. It's a clay soil. It shifted a little bit. One edge of that fiberglass tank dropped. Whenever that happened, the standpipe that the overflow was supposed to go down was now above the edge of the tank, where the side of the tank had dropped. Overflow wasn't going in it. It was a problem that we just kind of ignored. We'll fix it next weekend, which never happens, and it finally, with the ground moving and then the overflow spilling out onto the ground, it eroded a little bit and got worse and worse and worse. Finally went out there early this spring and fixed it and got it right. So now it's actually flowing where it's supposed to maintain that pond. But I didn't see any reason why we would ever run out of that water. You hear about 1 gallon a day of water. Well, that's to keep you not dead if you're in a climate controlled environment sitting there doing nothing. If you're actually doing something, you're going to need at least 3 gallons a day. If you plan on doing hard work and you expect to be able to bathe and clean up your area and all these foods that we keep and everything that we try to store back, that all requires water to cook. You're easily looking 5 to 7 gallons a day. So if you have 2 55-gallon drums of water and a family of 4, man, you got like a week and a half or 2 weeks of water max. That's the most you're going to have. So whatever you're doing for water, you're not doing enough. It's just such a incredibly volatile yet necessary for life resource. Rainwater collection of some kind is about the only sustainable way to keep that going. But with that being said, you need backups. I've got a pond with almost 1,000 acres of drainage that after all those years went dry, bone dry. It wasn't even muddy where the pond used to be. It's back to looking pretty good now. I'll try to put in a picture if I can. If not this video, I'll do one I'm going to do a video on that pond and you'll see it then. So whatever you're doing with water, you need to, 1, Figure out how to replenish your water supply, because it's impossible for any person or group of people to store enough water for what you need for even a midterm, even a longer short-term situation. 2 weeks without any resupply of water, I don't care how many water barrels you got sitting in your yard. You're going to run out of water. You got to have a way to replenish that supply. You're probably not going to get a fresh water replenishment source. So you need a way to treat that water. Boil it, treat it with chemicals. The Berkey stuff, amazing. Have a Berkey, have like as many of them as you can afford. You can buy the filters for them and use the 5-gallon buckets that you stack on top of each other and make your own Berkey system for hundreds of dollars less. That's a good route to go. Have a way to make that water drinkable. You don't have to drink all of the water. Some of that water is just used for cleaning up spills. Some of that water, the water that you're using to wash your hands in, a few drops of bleach, just to sanitize everything, is a whole different treatment level than what you're using for the water that you're actually going to consume. You don't want to consume water that's treated with enough bleach to sanitize your countertops, to wash your dishes. So have a way to treat it, and treat it for multiple different reasons. Aside from that, chances are there's not exactly a reliable water source within a comfortable walking distance from your house for you to have to transport that water in 5-gallon buckets. If you haven't done it yet, water's freaking heavy, dude. I remember growing up, I grew up on a ranch. During the wintertime, all the hoses would freeze. Those horses still needed water. We have several different sources of water that we can get. They may not all be available at the same time, but that's okay. We're taking as many steps as we can to ensure that as possible. So do the same thing with you. I know at our property, we've got a whole lot more abundance of water than we do at our house. So go through, figure that out, and take care of your water situation. Anyway, that's all I got time for today. Just wanted to talk to y'all. Operational security. Keep it in mind with everything. OPSEC, OPSEC, OPSEC. So until next time, put your phone down, go outside, stand up, and start doing the things you need to do to make everything better for you in the future.